So game number 1 is gonna be here from yet another match. I'm gonna be having to look what kind of group it is, because I legitimately do not remember. So that's gonna be our task for a moment, so I'm gonna be letting you look here at SJO for a moment. As I need to be right now updating all the information for our next match. Deities of that B, so that's gonna be group B, round 3 as well. So you're gonna be having another medit. And the home team is going to be, okay, Kagenotoshi. Okay, so it's gonna be at least on at this point stream. But you're gonna be also having to change it on Twitch in case somebody's gonna be looking for the games. So where are we right now? At 2 minutes. So apparently seems like right now the Poseidon is gonna be getting ready for the early advance. So that will be SJO here for Deities of that B. Then we do have KragHack, who's gonna be on the flank playing with the Zeus. Okay, so it's gonna be some kind of strong beginning in here from them. And Temple now, that's gonna be reaching therefore into about maybe 340. Maybe he's gonna be even able to get the 330. How is it with the resources for him? 210. No. More would be thinking it's gonna be closer to 4 minutes, but it's actually pretty quick anyway. And on the left side, it's gonna be Kyber. Wow, with Freyr. It's a very weird combo, because I was going to say if you're gonna be having quick Poseidon, and I'm thinking decently quick Zeus, maybe with Centaurs. That's something that I've seen played recently. Then Kyber, if it would be, I don't know, some kind of other Norse, maybe Odin could be pretty quick, but I've been better choice, And they could be having some strong double, or triple even actually. But maybe they just don't want to be entirely going in that direction, hard to say. So that's maybe at this point gonna be letting you see the Hades, Angel really. As I need to be switching there for information on Twitch. So group B, round 3. And let's go Kagenotoshi. Versus Deities of Death. It's gonna be a B team as well. Okay, so everything is right now set up, so we can just focus on the games right now. Classic, of course, through bottom, and advances are therefore we're halfway through for Hades. So that's gonna be for 15, not entirely the quickest. You can see Poseidon in, Zeus is gonna be as well. With the Zeus, I'm kind of curious what's going to happen here. He is still gathering favor. He is advancing also much more importantly through Athena. So, as you can tell, we are not really going to be having any kind of opportunity for that. Okay then. We're not gonna be having an opportunity for the Centaurs, but it is going to be still some kind of rushy gameplay. Stable ready here, getting ready for some upgrades into a lot of horses and spirited charge. Whereas for the Freyr, no, he is taking a long time in here. You can see he's gonna be advancing almost 5 minutes. Surprising, really. So what is he gonna be doing? Is it gonna be some kind of faster heroic, maybe even out of it for him? Like, I can imagine that, but what is he getting there? Tempest. I'm not sure if I'm actually seeing that. So I guess it's gonna be maybe like a double here for the Greeks. And then, well, Kyber is just gonna be playing a bit more standard and picking up the pieces in case it's gonna be going south for the Deities of Death. Here also the Alpha is a nice relic. And for the opposition, we're gonna be there for having Dexito already under pressure. We have streamed Dexito yesterday in the tournament. He was playing against Illuminati. And it was, by the way, a pretty great match. So if you haven't seen it, because, well, we were the only ones casting it, then yesterday's session from Gerbot's Jaguar Joust, at the very start, you're gonna be able to see the match. Worthwhile games. I mean, like actually yesterday we were having luck on all matches actually being pretty cool. There was this match, then we were streaming Mosca versus Assam, was also involving some nice games, and then the quarterfinals Miniati versus Rappel. That was also a nice match. All of them, all three. Some pretty cool games. No, but nonetheless, we're gonna be at this point therefore ready maybe for a bit more of an abuse here. Of course, we didn't go for any kind of forward builds, so just gonna be, just gonna be giving a bit of a chance for the defenders to maybe hold on a bit, as it looks like the Atlantean will be ready to help here. Full defense mode practically, what is right now going on with the Hades. He's actually very interesting, goes advanced through Ares. So pretty late, but nonetheless, he did advance through Ares, as he's gonna be having at least some kind of early army for the attack, and the Freyr might be having a bit of a problem in here, because he's not ready with army. He advanced, no, as he did, focusing on the economy, so this is gonna be actually an interesting clash. I really do wonder what kind of nerfs the players are going to be having. If maybe Angel gonna be choosing to, in the end, help the teammates, but I'm kinda thinking that maybe he should be trying to attack the Freyr. It might be a bit better idea. And hoping that his two teammates are gonna be able to hold on here. Because frankly, where is the Poseidon? Now having horses here and there, so far he's kind of split on the army. Not having everything together too much. Getting ready with Spirited Charge. Maybe could be also getting mediums, considering what kind of horses he already has. But now it's gonna be important to have some numbers at least. As for KanT, when he's gonna be switching to his point of view, he is not entirely producing too quickly, because obviously the quick advance, well, you're not gonna be having as much of a turbo economy, so not always you're gonna be able to create villages, train villages into hoplites from both. Shockwave, no idea where. As usual, maybe somewhere to the top side. I'm gonna be guessing that probably, because it's gonna be a success at this point for SJO, as he's destroyed not only a villager, but much more importantly, even an attempt to potentially move some further villages over into Hunt. So this is actually a very good raid, an important one, as it seems like that, yes, Angel really has kinda given up upon the idea of attacking Kyber, and now when he basically sees Kyber, that the opponent is here, he's even just like brazenly taking the front TC. This is a good reaction right now by him, of course, realizing that he doesn't have anything to worry about. He's gonna be really dangerous there, Kyber, on the left. Like, really dangerous indeed. Because at this point he's not gonna be having any kind of competition, he's even just involving himself in walling half of the map off, sure. No, and now... Actually, it kinda seems like it's currently... The Kagenotoshi, they're gonna be maybe a bit committing more into classical thinking, that it's gonna be a huge fight. And it seems like that maybe Deities of Death are not entirely as super interested. That they're gonna be actually happy if maybe KanT is gonna be binding the units. SJO is gonna be just raiding with the Hippicons here and there. And Kyber is gonna be developing his economy. So it's gonna be kinda tough for KanT, because he's gonna be fully doubled in here. Maybe even tripled, we'll see how much involvement there's going to be from Trinet. How much he's gonna be able to assist. Well, okay, that's a fairly aggressive right now archer range. Might be... No, the 4 seconds, well, maybe could have been finishing that, but maybe also not. So I think this is gonna be actually correct decision for him to run. At the same time, of course, that's not getting done at all. He would have been losing it anyway to the Kyklopes, so might as well save the village alive in there. Hey, medium Hippicons, good for SJO. Very good indeed in here. No, but we need to be careful about the Caladri in there for Trinet. He wants to be, of course, in the middle of the fight in here. As army-wise, by the way, Deities of Death, we are still doing pretty excellently. They are still even above the opponents, which is maybe slightly surprising, considering right now the commitments. No, but the amount of Kyklopes is steadily growing. If you're gonna be looking at the Hades, he is having 4 villages spraying. Resource is pretty nice as far as the favor goes. So there might be some kind of chance of getting something the opponents are not going to be entirely ready to deal with. Because currently, Zeus is not gonna be helpful. Poseidon maybe not too much either, because if you have so many archers, you're gonna be able to single out the heroes pretty well and easily. So this legit might be a threat. But there's gonna be red coming help. Yep, looks like it's gonna be some big 3v3 happening here to the right wing. With, let's gonna maybe look at the resources. Just gonna look in Varys right now. Yo, there he is. Oh, no. No, I mean, like, it wasn't a terrible fight. Just the catapults are, of course, a problem. So, yeah, I didn't see those. So, I'm gonna be retracting my words. It was a bad fight. If it were only Murmilos, it would have been an okay fight. Taking some damage, healing with Lore of the Horses after. But the catapult has made it significantly worse, of course, with their bonus damage. But looking at the rest, is there some heroic age? No, looks like it maybe for the Zeus. That KanT is getting a bit higher up. No, definitely also Kyber with the Freyr. And I guess maybe the Oranos. Okay, that's one hell of an interesting undermine currently here for Dexito. No, hoping that he's actually not entirely thinking that he's gonna be doing some kind of important damage to the enemy army. I hope that he's basically just trying to get rid of the enemy boss in that to be allowing for a bit easier maneuvering and movement. But well, whatever the case, that was a curious casting right there. Much more importantly, what is also super curious is the switch of SJO already into some Centaurs there. So that's gonna be apparently his unit of choice, and considering the number and amount, he should be getting Centaur Polemarch upgrade already, because at this point, he's just gonna be getting so much of a bonus out of it, and oh wow, okay. So that's gonna be a pretty quick, actually, GG right there. So we joined at the last moment, apparently, into the first game here, it looks like. And you're like 9 or 10 minutes after. But nonetheless, the first game is gonna be done, and actually fairly strong performance by Deities of Death. I was slightly maybe worried about the combination they were trying to play here. But in the end, they did kinda cause enough of a kinda scare in Kagenotoshi here to the right, so that it forced Angel really not to be abusing Kyber. And in the end, Kyber, of course, then had practically a chill game. Didn't really have to be worried about too many things. You can see even full side build here at the back, which should be resulting into maybe some further damage and issues too. Right about now, the economy here of the Latin Americans. Okay, so that was the first one, pretty quick. Let's maybe therefore check some upgrades. Hopefully the other games are not gonna be as quick. And we're not gonna be missing anything. You can say now nothing from Armory, but the special ones are in place for the Zeus. That is okay and correct. Kyber will be straight nothing. Hippies are having what they need to at the start. It's really 1140, so we're not gonna be expecting too many upgrades at all. Just you can see Angel's Bow of Horror from the RS. Blue will be at nothing. And something teal left. There we go. Medium infantry with nothing. Okay, and the villages. So we are going to be at the first line here for teal. Blue will be right about now double basics. Not even anything for Angel really. So he was really just going all in. Blue Crystal Shard at that point actually is a pretty great relic for him to be had, because it's like as if he were having in total like one extra economical upgrade. This is pretty helpful in these kinds of situations, as this is gonna be probably hand axe and pickaxe in place, quite of course. And not sure about here with the yellow villages, but he did manage to find the resources, which is nice. And KanT, yeah, of course as well. Quality of the players definitely showing in here. No, and of course the floats are not going to be relevant here at 10 minutes, but just for some kind of archiving reasons, we can see even that. Didn't even get actually all the platelets in here, or how they're called, tables. So Idols, no, of course right now that's gonna be SJO, having definitely some issues that he could be wanting to somewhat avoid in the next game, if at all possible. Then it's gonna be Angel Trilly here at the end. But otherwise, it was just like a short game to be properly showing, but they have some like higher amounts at basically all of them, at least once in the game. Maybe Teal is a bit lower here, but still. Yeah, some kind of room for improvement is gonna be there. You can see right now, good economy for the Oranos. Until, of course, the Raiden came and he lost, what, 29 down to 24. How does that actually compute for an Atlantean? How is the Atlantean actually able to drop this way? Maybe because the Oracles are not... How is it with the Oracles? They actually switch them into civilians, right? So that they don't bother you with selecting all military. So that might be the reasoning. No, because that's the only explanation I have for this. So that has to be it. Can see Kyber getting the extra TC in there at the end. And for some military statistics. No, that's gonna be actually Angel really stepping into it. I really wonder what would have happened, sorry, if he had Kyber in there fast enough. If maybe he had some kind of real chance. I'm thinking that maybe possibly. As well, KanT, of course, with his teammate are gonna be then to the right. Obviously, since his horses, looks like it's gonna be low, but population limit, he will be on the same level as Angel really, probably. Trinet was actually kind of weirdly slow here. He was in the pocket, so I guess maybe he was hoping for some kind of better economy that he's gonna be able to reach here, but still, yeah, that's maybe a slight issue in what we see right about now in the game. Managed to get some kind of army here. But it was already some kind of slight damage done on the right side, but it wasn't like a huge damage, frankly. Just on the, I don't know, like the sides and edges of the base was KanT annoying Dexito there. Maybe more of a damage was actually done by the raids, by SGO, by the horses in here. But well, nonetheless, on the resources, therefore, that's going to be in the end. Hades, no, kind of same-ish, for example, here with the Freyr. Not going to be any kind of big difference in there. Atlantean, of course, understandably top, but KanT is doing pretty well here. It's maybe kind of interesting that he's so efficient. But here, that's going to be catching up. 3 players, so almost like all of them. Somewhat limited difference is 200 here. Not entirely too horrible yet. As when you're going to be advancing to the next ages and starting the business in here, that will be the Freyr, since he was focusing the economy. 5-minute advance in there. So understandably, he's going to be, of course, the one then, of course, peeling off from the others. But otherwise, pretty much like within the center of the pack, everybody else. You can say now orange, maybe KanT. Playing well, even from the early stages. So I guess he was pretty efficient there. No, and well, SGO is going to be dropping a bit because he had to be having a few more villages on favor. Which obviously is, no, you're not getting as much as the other resources. So that's also why he's going to be maybe dropping a bit in there, the Poseidon. So always something that with the Greeks you need to be taken into consideration. For some further information, it was a short game, so even the statistics are not gonna be entirely too super high in here. 316, KanT was 350, 5 minutes long, yeah. Practically what we have seen. 348 is pretty nice for the Oranos, trying to counter the enemy Poseidon. But the army couldn't entirely get off the feet in there too much. 5 Aeneris. GG. Now let's go. Lizards, that is of course a player that we have streamed many times in the team games on Woobly in our community sessions. And well, also a few times here on Retold as well. But we're heading into an open map. That's gonna be there for the steps are gonna be open to us and to the players too. So we should be probably expecting another, maybe like a rushy game, theoretically. We'll see about that. As of course at this point there are gonna be also all kinds of different gods. This time Lizard is gonna be playing with Thor in the pocket position. Seems to be going for the standard Dwarven armory build. Or standard. There are at this point like 2 versions. You can be going for the 415 advance with it, or you can go for the later one for 40 something or whatever. No, and for KanT, he's gonna be there for continuing with the Greeks, but this time he's gonna be switching into the Poseidon, abandoning the Zeus therefore, in favor of this god, with a bit of open gold, therefore some temple and stable will be probably needed to cover it properly. And the last player for the team will be Kyber to the bottom yet again, apparently loving his Freyr. So good luck with him. Also needing to be protecting the gold. And in the pocket, oh, Lizard has already started working on it, so I guess he's gonna be able to keep it safe fast enough. No, and we're gonna be switching also into Gaia here. That will be Trinet. Right now having some interesting profile picture in here for her. So also forward gold, but he does have also forest nearby. So it seems like he's gonna be fine. Just needs to be properly rotating it because it's hard to see where he needs to be positioned in the temple and potentially some further things. As for the pocket player, they're gonna be having Angel Trilly. He is gonna be having the Hades in there. Already working on securing the mine first and foremost. And the last player will be Dexito, who is gonna be playing with... That's actually whom, this one? It's Odin. It's Odin, right? That picture. Yeah, I'm just gonna entirely always recognizing it, but it... No, God Power is gonna be able to tell me. That's actually Loki, okay. It's actually Loki. Didn't recognize him from the statue in there, but now he's having the wolf. I just didn't see the wolf there. That's obviously a telltale sign for Loki. No, nonetheless, that's gonna be there for him. Really strange profile picture in there from some event, as it seems like the gold mine is gonna be pretty much the safest at this point for him that we can be having, and the players can be having, and well, currently not entirely much to be looking at, so let's maybe check out some relics for the moment. And in the meantime, Atlatl of Hecatl, that's gonna be there for a slightly faster attack for the ranged soldiers, which is gonna be always finding some level of use in the game. Staff of Dionysus, haven't seen it for a long time for the Will region. Chocolatl, it's pretty nice, almost like a free Bacchanalia from the start of the game. Fetters of Fenrir for the better villagers. Then we do have Kitter of Apollo, that's pretty great. If only to run away from the enemy raids, or well, maybe even just some kind of faster movement, especially on something like a wood line. Text of Imhotep is low-key OP. Mayahuel's Magway, sure, pretty great as well. Scales of Echidna Yespels, pretty good relics so far. Absolutely worthwhile to be picking them up. Not much of a dud here so far. Nine-tailed Fox Charm is also not too terrible. You can say it now, regeneration rate for the myth units. Not like a huge one, but if you're gonna be careful enough, it can still help you quite a bit. No. Is he actually... I was going to say, is he actually blocked in there? He is, right? Wow, he is. No, that better be actually way outside here. Wow. There isn't. No, well, congratulations, that happens. Reminds me, what was it? On Monday, I think we were doing a match in Age of Empires 2. And one of the players actually built barracks so kind of close to the forest that unfortunately the first militiaman he has created was trapped in a bit of a tree. Or basically a tree trap. And he couldn't be even either. And there was no way he's gonna be deleting, of course, barracks at that point, so... Yeah, but unfortunately one unit practically dead. So at this point for Craig it resulted into only a house. Could have been, of course, wars, but even that is... You know, a bit of a slight mishap that we're gonna be having a bit of a good laugh about. So sorry, Craig Heck, about that. No, nonetheless, double stables right now in place. That's gonna be there for quite a strength and power. They're gonna be trying to play something similar as last game. They apparently seem to be primed for some aggro games today. Wanted to be having it quickly done. As of course, Kyber is gonna be probably playing, not looking at the wall, and he's just gonna be playing his own game in here. Can see chilling for... He's actually advancing even later. Last game he was 5 minutes, now he's gonna be going for 5:20. I guess just gonna figure in he's playing against a Gaia, who's also not gonna be the super quickest. Which seems to be at this point working fairly decently for him. KanT barracks, military barracks, and... another one. He advanced, yes, Okeanos. Classic Okeanos is gonna be in play. You can see second TC currently for the Hades. Standard what you would be expecting. No, and lock it to the top side. So far, not much. As in and not anything. Huh. What is the pocket doing here? Lizard with the Thor. Okay, it's gonna be going for right now cavalry. So it's gonna be cavalry raiding party apparently. Where are you gonna be building that? Okay, protecting gold and sorry, much more importantly, protecting currently the hunt. But he's already practically walled in. Just needs to be right now properly checked in case. Yeah, it seems like maybe he has rotated the map correctly. making also sure he's gonna be going even beyond the trees. And it can be all kinds of tricky in here, which is kind of funny because in Age of Mythology, the original, it wasn't really that hard to detect the problem. Sometimes, yeah, sometimes you would be actually wanting to use the rotation anyway, but Retold is definitely a lot more of a serious offender, especially because really just the logic of the trees and the forests is a lot different. In Age of Mythology, if you would be having forests like this, then it would be considered in the code like basically one mass, and you couldn't be having a situation where you would be like cutting like a tree here and suddenly there will be an opening. That's something that can happen in Retold, and sometimes it's tripping players up. That was a really good system in the original AOM that unfortunately they have done away with. Not sure if it was because in Age of Empires 3 it was already done and it wasn't there. I at this point don't remember from 20 years ago when I used to be playing it. But yeah, that's something that I think is a bit of a shame here for the quality of gameplay of Age of Mythology. So seems like it's gonna be also properly blocked in here. Maybe just can be opening there for the door in there. As we are gonna be switching southwards because evidently cavalry here from Thor is gonna be arriving in proper place. Hades losing a villager, so far one, but probably pretty soon he's gonna be having some more serious issues and problems if he actually is going to be found, because yeah, that's gonna be the other part. At least the second TC will be quite a bit of a help here for Angel, as he does have some kind of gold, but exposed. It's gonna have to be paying some really close attention where the horses are going to be across the map, as it seems like it all the way into the mid. No, KyBri yet again brazenly trying to take the front TCS in the last game, but this time he's actually gonna be facing already the breath of Trinet and his army. In the last game he didn't really have to be fighting against, I think it was Angel there on the flank. And well, with Undermine coming up, and he's going to be not entirely right now doing sufficiently enough damage, unfortunately. Also really kinda odd though, because when it was under construction I would be really expecting the hit points to be dropping significantly faster, but that's gonna be the problem because of how the God power is actually done, because it does have different damage against finished building and under construction. I think that under construction is significantly lower. I right now remember some information about it. What is it? No, you can say it about now water multiplier against settlements. So he's doing like water damage against that unfinished TC. So that is the reason why it actually wasn't doing significant enough damage. So I guess somebody was... No, this way. Could be potentially a God power that's gonna be insta-denying second TC. That's probably something that you don't necessarily want as much. But feels like that right now the damage reduction is like way too serious. Maybe you could be actually increasing it so that you, I don't know, take down half the hit points, for example, for even the TC under construction. Don't think it to be too bad. Because at least some kind of reward for the God power would be nice to have. But nonetheless, at least that's also what Dexito thought in here. Frankly, I do agree with him. But it seems like that currently we are developing into like 3 1v1s practically. As all the way topwards, Craighack is... No, almost destroying the TC, but so far successful defense by Dexito, who is already ready with some army. Combination of Herdman and... Okay. I was going to say combination with some throwing axemen, but they are literally just those two guys here. Not any kind of big army whatsoever. Yellow forest fire, and that's actually going where? Somewhere back. 2 villages, by the way, that get in here. No, this is actually starting to be a bit more of a serious problem. Because right now Lizard, bit of a shame maybe that he isn't Odin and he could be therefore having the regeneration on the cavalry. But nonetheless, hit points are still somewhat there, but he is getting definitely more and more damaged. So I'm thinking the time is near him when he's gonna be facing some kind of engagement. He's maybe not gonna be entirely gauging too well, and he's gonna be suddenly having half the army in just a moment. Wow. Walling half of the map off yet again. No, but KyBri is having a huge army actually. You can see Heroic Age has been reached for Angel really, for the Hades in the pocket at least. So he went for some 2 TC fast Heroic, and now what is he moving into? Prodromy. Makes sense. Considering that he's gonna be against double cavalry, like double full cavalry, that is actually excellent choice. Normally with Hades you'll be thinking of course some infantry is kind of predominant force, but when he has to be chasing this on such an open map, thinking it's an okay decision. Think it's gonna be pretty okay, just gonna needs to be also dealing somehow with the enemy Centaurs, as they could be potentially somewhat of a threat to him, but without any kind of upgrade on them as well into polymers. from orange, apparently even aiming to get into heroic cage. Yes, through Dionysus. He might not entirely be having as much of a lifespan here anymore. Can say now 10% melee resistance or pierce resistance for the Prodromy. So the Kentars theoretically might be interesting, but I'm not entirely certain and thinking that they're gonna be effective enough. So since we are not entirely facing infantry here, besides possibly topside, oh that was close. Almost managed to trap him in there. Then maybe the switch already for the Poseidon is gonna be having to be prepared. And since he's fighting against Prodromy, or maybe he's not gonna be switching too much, maybe he's just gonna be incorporating Prodromy as well, and gonna be hoping that the numbers are gonna be winning it for him. And he's gonna be having some maybe more, like simply better composition in general. Maybe it could be a thing. Some limited damage right now to the Murmilos, of course. So far not having anything extra on them. And no, currently he needs to be a bit more patient right now, Angel. Prodromy are definitely correct choice, but not in these numbers. Jesus Christ. Please, don't you see, actually this is not gonna be a good fight for you, even if you're gonna be having the bestest of country units. Yeah, that's something you cannot be affording to be doing too much. So Pulse, calm down a bit. Accumulate some army, some 10 plus Prodromy, and then you can be potentially trying to see if he can fight that. But he also needs to be really taking care of some kind of heroes to be having with his army. He's an Hades, so can be having Achilles, you'll be pretty well fit in as far as the speed goes. So be happy if he did that, so that he can be countering the enemy Centauros. No, but in the meantime we also getting all kinds of second TCs. You can see that Craig Heck has gotten one, also Lizard, no, but whole team, the whole Deities of that B, are also improving the economy, as they are leading by about 22 villages above the team from Kagenotoshi. And on the army, that's not any kind of a bug, by the way. That is literally 260 army against 130 in favor of Deities of Death. Okay, dangerous spot for the villages to be idling in. So all the way southwards. He actually did manage to break through. But is that gonna be a problem? Now looking at the size of the army, no it won't be. So he probably can be looking a bit elsewhere, as that battle is not gonna be of any kind of real interest to us, because it's not gonna be too much of a battle in the first place. As we do have Ulfis already as a second unit added in for Lizard. No, and that is of course where it's gonna be a bit falling apart for Angel Trilly. So far when he was on the cavalry he was fine with the Prodromy. Now he's gonna be having to add the archers into the mix, and he's probably not entirely too prepared for that. Double stable. It looks to me that the Ulfsarks are gonna be maybe a bit too much. Can see heavy already. Started with some bronze in there. Purple has already been eliminated southwards, and I'm loving how Kyber is just gonna play in SimCity here. Like legitimately just gonna build in his own base, minding his own business. And here and there somebody actually is making an intrusion, He just gonna takes care of him and that's it. Having some chill game. No, and Purple can be just kinda expecting that, well, just kinda waiting for the reds to come for him practically. That's maybe what we are doing here. With somewhat of a... I guess some kind of battle, just the Hydra didn't manage to run away fast enough, I guess, so we just gonna sacrifice her. As all the way topside, we are attempting maybe a bit of a small raid. If we're gonna be actually able to get through. But if so, then the villages are, well, not completely defenseless, they're gonna be able to get beyond the further walls. But it does definitely have some kind of threat potential in here. No, it looks like Kyber has finally come with all the might and force that he has. He is gonna be currently with the Freyr at about 100 population limit on the military. Purple will be at only 30, and you can say now 40 villagers. On the villagers are the 73 here for Kyber. Yeah, I'm thinking that unfortunately here for Trinet, he is right now staring defeat in the jaws, and they are pretty sharp. The teeth in that jaw. No, so it's kind of like a done deal here almost. You can say I'm trying to survive, of course, at the back, and oh, this is actually what he was going after. Wasn't certain if there was some raid or not, but so far nicely done as far as catching that. But of course, it's gonna be the question what's gonna be happening after, because the middle is not claimed, but at least some kind of forward base by Lizard has been established. He seems to be chilling. Can say I'm just controlling the raiding cavalry to the bottom. Wanted to be having some little fun here with those, but I'm not certain if it's gonna be considered as much by the opponents. As of course to the top side we also don't see much of an effort so far by Orange. He's right now just gonna chill in and waiting for the opponent maybe to come. But he is gonna be coming to the other side. And since he's right now taking also the INRs with him, they of course are only 3.8 speed. They're gonna be here pretty damn late. I mean, like, Norse are gonna be of course great on any kind of raiding map. It is gonna be a superb map for anything that's gonna be having cavalry for raiding. So Japanese are gonna be superb here as well. With the classic Naginata race. Loving the Aeneas and the increase in the speed here. You can say now 7.5 and even getting higher. But nonetheless, that's gonna be the full army here for Kagenatoshi. And Deities of that B, they're gonna be having to therefore coordinate too. Or, well, they're gonna be coordinated in a certain way. You can say now yellow is gonna be trying to not entirely join, but rather actually destroy purple further. And much more importantly, we are breaking through the defenses through top side by Craighack. But apparently blue has already vacated the premises. So all good. And not really gonna be losing all that many villages here, or rather any at all for the moment. Of course, depends. Maybe somewhere down the line he could. Let's not be too impatient. Currently, Angel, he's having actually a pretty huge army. Still gonna be by 100 population limit lower than what Deities of Death are having. By the way, villages, that's gonna be 70 lower. Like half extra economy for dots than for Kagenatoshi. So we can certainly see where this is gonna be most probably heading. But we are not there just yet, as that's gonna be the Mythical Age, Fimble, Winterfall, Lizard. And for the others, the Mythical Ages are also coming. You can say it now. Kyber is getting one. Okay, and this is right now where the GGs are gonna be coming through, because the wolves are way too annoying. And with them, of course, all the constant and omnipresent traits. Not entirely too much of a super scary force currently by Orange just yet. As he was also getting Mythical Age, by the way, in the meantime, advancing into Hephaestus. Freyr was also getting Mythical Age. He was getting ready with classic Vidar. And it was apparently it. Now I can say now there was Gaia was still in the Classical Age. Fought Rinette. Didn't entirely have the resources even to hope to advance anywhere. Which is not entirely too surprising based on the progress. No, and we are going to be looking at some upgrades. And then it's going to be Meditate again. So all couple upgrades currently for Orange. We are at 18 minutes almost of the game time. So now we should be probably seeing a bit more ups. Or at least I'll be thinking that we should. With... No, let's maybe go players by players. And it's going to be therefore for blue. He is going to be having double bronze and copper. It's actually 5 level upgraded. Teal is having double bronze and copper as well. Plus, we'll be having the Phobos Spear of Panic. Purple army will be upgradeless, not even mediums, just for the Murmilos. He was also having right now the Bite of the Shark. Red player will be having heavy, all bronze, and I guess that's it on the army. Not sure if I've seen yellow properly, but actually I haven't. Can see one of each is gonna be also in place for him. Now, and for the economy, are we gonna be missing something? Or probably quite a bit. I'll be expecting baseline of upgrades here for Teal. It's obviously not entirely as ideal here at this stage of the game. Second level though here for the Loki, that's a whole lot better situation that he has in there. Gaia probably will be maybe having some second levels too. Only one, but otherwise sure. Freyr should be second level filled, I guess. No, and for the rest of the players, you can see it now. Gathers in yellow, also full second line. Not full. Not having right now the farm is having just winter harvest in here so far. He probably didn't have to be switching yet. You can see still on some hunt here at the back. For example, Skargagi is farming and he does have the second levels with, you can say now, the first on the wood, so not too bad. For some resources on the account, if somebody will be floating, something that maybe they don't have to be necessarily, not looking at, for example, the Thor, then yes, he kinda is. He will be right now spending probably on plenty of upgrades immediately though. So does have a way to go through that. And for the others, nothing entirely too interesting in here. So let's check into the statistics. Fairly actually modest idle villages, not too bad considering that it was a bit raidy game. Especially from one side practically, but even that can be resulting into your own idols because you're gonna be focusing on your soldiers and you're just gonna be forgetting the economy here and there. So it can happen, but maybe it's also because we have some really high spikes in here, 20 plus, and it's just gonna be seen and seeming that the others here at the bottom are kinda low, which in reality they actually aren't. And it's not too horrible, I can straight on some 4, 2, 3. Yeah, they're pretty fine. This is actually one of the best graphs today. Yeah, nothing too bad. Short ones. So I guess idle villager hotkey utilized well here. So good. No. Kyber came. And of course, Trinet left. Otherwise it seems like it's gonna be somewhat understandably same-ish. Maybe Dexito a bit lower. Dexito seems to be a bit lower in here on the wells. Yeah. He did manage to right now catch up a bit after. Can see once he got the second TC. But otherwise on the military that was just like Deities of Death from the start. That goes for Lizard and Craig Heck. Just immediately going for the armies. Of course 3 pop Hippicons in here, so Craig Heck was quite a bit high. And on the other side, no, actually it was just like all three of them, sorry. As this time even Kyber was a bit faster on the army. First game he wasn't. Maybe just gonna thought I'm not gonna be risking it as much. And yeah, when you're gonna be looking at the teams, no, the difference is self-explanatory. I can see some standard resource difference that's gonna be there for Dexito Home, picking up the bottom part of the graph from the start, whereas Trinet with the guy obviously will be top. Lizard Thor is gonna be next one, and you can see the Freyr is gonna trying to keep up the pace before he's gonna be properly right now kicking it in. Yeah. Getting of course the extra TC and the focus on the economy. It's a very specific play by Kyber, but here on Medit he's probably gonna have to be playing a bit differently. So I'm looking forward to what's gonna be his role specifically. But considering how they have so far played, I'm thinking it's gonna be again just some kind of maybe even faster advances into classical. And just gonna try to decide as quickly as possible there too. Low economy for Craig Heck, because of course it kinda does happen with the Poseidon at that point. And he was also switching villages into favor. So that's gonna be further hampering his economy. Because obviously you don't get as much favor as the other resources, so he's gonna be dropping below, understandably from that reason too. No, and at the finish, obviously Trinet already destroyed, so that's not much of a fair thing to say that he will be having some low economy. But Kyber on the other hand, quite a bit owning, and Lizard not being too far away. Oh, not too far away. 17.5 minutes and 4,100. That's kinda difference that happens, I guess you could say. But the other ones, that's a bit higher here already. You can see even Dexito, for example, above Craig Heck. And that might be actually the reason why Craig Heck didn't seem like he was just like ready to destroy Dexito in some kind of way. He just kind of was hanging around, trying to get into wills there with Raiden. Yeah, just a bit of a specific approach maybe here by Craig Heck. Maybe having a bit more of a chill game possibly as well. But overall, well executed by Deities of Death B. And look at Lizard. Commitments through Raiden. 101 largest army is very odd. That seems to be maybe a bit extreme. I mean, like, really? That's gonna be the Wolves. That's actually gonna be the Fimbul Winter Wolves. That already tripped me some time ago in some different game. That's gonna be the Fimbul Winter because it counts into the military. No, that's it. Yes, of course. That makes sense. Yeah, these statistics are just kind of like all kinds of funny. You need to be always knowing the details. And I either forget or just kind of don't remember when I figure it out. So yeah. But the 5 units killed just kind of shows you what he was doing the whole game. For 17.5 minutes is one hell of a statistic. 334, of course. Then even greedier upgrade by Kyber, 515. 5 is also pretty greedy for Lizard in here. You can say right now the opponent just right now advancing quick. Thinking that's gonna be some kind of faster game, and in the end the opponent surprised them with better echo. Besides Craig Heck, of course. GG. So the last game for today is gonna be upon us, both for the match and I think also for the stream, because the next match that should be starting about now most probably will be covered by Stretch. And we are going to be there for having Mediterranean with what kind of civilization? So let's go in for Isis this time. Again, Egyptians, same as in the last Medit. Egyptians are a good choice in here, as he's gonna be joined by SJO to the top side, who is gonna be performing with Hades. Again, great choice. And the last one is gonna be Craighead to the bottom. This time he's gonna be going for wildly different civilization from the two Greeks he was having before, and it's gonna be Freyr. Okay. Interesting choice. Now let's see therefore how effective he's going to be in here. As for the opposition, we're gonna be therefore playing with Dexito as Odin. Yeah, well, he was played also in the last Merit, by the way, Odin. And before we gonna be right now continue, just want to be seeing the Battle of the Villager and the Auroch. Yeah, gonna be having pocket play Angel Trilly playing with Hades as well. And last one to the top side is gonna be Trinet with Gaia, which who is gonna be always quite a bit of a great choice for any kind of water map. It's very interesting that people actually choosing Hades more than, for example, the Zeus. Theoretically, you might be wanting to have some kind of consideration for ballistics if the game is gonna be long enough on the water. And having really just the ballistics immediately on the heroic age might be quite a bit of a game changer in the fight. But frankly, mostly the fights are gonna be taking place in the classical age and a long one. And once you're gonna be reaching the heroic ages, then the water tends to be more decided than anything else. Unless you have something like the fast heroics as we had with Amaterasu in the first game today. That was quite a nice experience, and therefore maybe just an inspiration for others what to possibly play. So this time we're gonna be having plenty monkeys apparently here, only raft. So it's highly randomized, very small palm unfortunately. Seems like it maybe the monkeys already ate the original one, or I don't know what they could have been doing with it. It'd be kind of funny if they were just kind of moving around. They're just kind of like literally moving from the island all the way to the side, basically just like the sea randomly moving them around here with the waves. But yeah, well, just gonna code in some kind of nonsense like that. Who would be even wanting to bother with something along those lines? But as we're gonna be waiting for the advances, because of course on water they usually take a bit longer, we do have some relics around here to look at, with Harmonia's necklace being one of them. That is an OP relic right there. Tirfing, not entirely as much, I guess. Then we do have Archimedes Ledger, that's completely useless. Next one, Ankofra, sure. Can't say it now. What do we have next? Dwarven Calipers, Ring of the Nibelung, and so far not entirely anything all that super impressive. Guitar of Apollo is gonna be probably reaching into that group as the first one here. Then we do have Blue Crystal Shard, that's gonna be also nice, besides the Harmonious Necklace at the start. That is of course nice. And top level relic. Armor of Achilles, some slight extra defense for the units. Girdle of Hippolyta, same situation, with the straight hit points. 10% base hit points extra is an excellent upgrade. Next, Hummingbird's Beak. That's gonna be right now the infantry action against other infantry. Also somewhat of a good use case in here that might be seen play. And yeah, this is one I just gonna always having a problem to properly reconcile in my mind. Ehekaila Kokoscuttle. Ehekaila Kokoscuttle. Yeah, okay. So all units moving faster. Interesting one, but thinking that the 2.5% not having as much of a use case. We'll be having maybe some kind of specific scenarios where it helps, but I'm thinking that like the 5% is kind of like the limit where it's gonna be useful, and at the same time it's not gonna be too brokenly OP. But it's kind of nice. But that was always like the discussion, for example, with the Oranos Murmilos, right, in the original game, where basically Oranos was simply better because he was having the fastest speed of the units. So let's not say that the speed wouldn't be super important, but if you're gonna be having a difference of like 0.1 or 0.2, it doesn't really have to be meaning all that much. That's gonna be having just like, I don't know, few specific cases in the game where it's gonna be maybe helping you, but mostly it's just gonna be even neutralized by how you're gonna be controlling the units in the first place. So as the classical ages are coming in, can say now about 445, most of them, within like 5-10 seconds. Let's see the action. So we have orange. Okay, so basically left versus right. So seems like there's gonna be some kind of fight, even moving it a bit forward and further to Trinet. as SJO will be definitely right now not having any kind of extra fish in here, unfortunately. But he's gonna be wanting to have some proper engagement here still. And Benny WR, thank you for the raid. So seems like you have already finished your match therefore. No proper length, like an hour and a half or something, between Evoid Sports A and Friends of Mythology. So we had some fun as we are right now finishing another match that is currently running. And there is gonna be another match starting about now, which, if everything goes according to plans, should be probably Stretch streaming. At Stretch YXX, not entirely certain if he's already online, if that match is running. But yeah, plenty of Mythic Clan League by Deities of Death in the community today. Now so far, seems to be at this point like now, fairly well started for SJO, so expecting he's gonna be having some decent time here. As all the way to the south side, it doesn't seem entirely too hot for right now the Latin Americans, as unfortunately you can see even the Snakies didn't entirely get destroyed too much. Seems like at Lizard, no, it's gonna be thematic for him of course, but simply he was having too much of an edge in here. And you can say it now, Craig Hack, he is practically non-existent in here, interestingly. He's having like almost just a few units, doesn't seem to be really focusing it as much. Seems like that maybe the Egyptian is gonna be more than powerful enough. No, because at this point Dexito is kinda dead guy. It's not gonna be entirely able to join with anything all that serious. You can see he's not even doing anything there, which might be therefore opening the opportunity for the Norse War to already start on the land. Won't be really having to wait too long, I think, for the fight in there. What is actually Dexito currently trying to do here? That's the market, no further setup. Looks like it rather Craighack though is gonna be having some interest in that battle, as I mentioned. No, but currently you can see yellow is absolutely owning 101 against 46. Now this is a proper Mediterranean commitment to water here. That's how we like it. And that's what we are used to from the original Merit. Again, I'm not expecting that maybe the meta on the Merit is gonna be still developing as the tournament goes. Because Merit used to be extremely popular map, or used to be popular map on the original game. Because it's also one of the highest skill maps. So therefore, if you're gonna be playing it well, you could be of course getting some good advantage against opponent. And therefore making it a valuable home map. So we'll see if it's gonna be maybe developing into something similar here in this version of the game on Retold. The water is pretty much a done deal here. As if we... Yeah, we are actually getting somebody advancing to Heroic Age. It's gonna be Angel or the Hades. It really bothers me how they actually changed the graphics of that. I'm not entirely certain if they did it on purpose, but they just gonna darken the ages. And now when somebody is advancing, it's like a bit harder to see that they are advancing. I think it was some kind of mistake somewhere, but they just like never bothered to fix it. Same as like, for example, never added any kind of picture for Demeter and Amaterasu to like the sides here for the observer interface. So I guess there's absolutely zero interest for the devs on that. Looks like it right now. Yellow is gonna be still having to put in a bit of an effort. They mustn't be right now resting on the laurels too much. As you can see to the top side, victory for SJO. Oh well, was gonna expected it's gonna be coming, and it did come. As at least some second TCs finished here for Trinet, and will be apparently also coming for the other players. As we are at about 8:45, apparently in a time where the players are deciding that the water is not like maybe fully decided yet, but it's basically there, just like a minute or two and it's gonna be full. That's usually when you want to be switching into the land. And it's also then quite a bit important to be having some proper experience. Maybe just gonna be waiting for the undeveloped passage in here. Second TC also coming for SJO. And all the way to the bottom, that was there for Dexito, who also is having second TC. No, I'm slightly afraid that this was maybe way too quick of a victory. From the point of view of right now Kagenotoshi, even though I'm liking the fishing boats for Dexito still. So basically he has lost water, but he's still chilling and gathering. That's something that needs to be picked up on by the Deities of Death as soon as possible. And in the meantime, you can see right now with the Heroic Age for Angel, he is gonna be trying to maybe introduce a few skillet into the mix. Or is he? No, yeah, he is. 6 villages gathered in favor. If he was actually going for this, he could have been just going Zeus, or rather should have been going Zeus. So that he will be having a bit easier favor gathering in there in general. Okay, Prosperity for the Isis, that's gonna be there for Heroic Age. Yeah, okay, he's actually in the Heroic Age already. Okay, didn't see him advancing in there. As it looks like no water is practically done. At this point they just need to be properly consolidating. Just gonna maybe SJO helping here to destroy Angel. Because at this point it's a bit tricky, because it looks like on the minimap that Lizard is actually doing well on the water, but it's only the snakes in the middle. And in the end, this is gonna be opening an opportunity for a comeback, and you can see it's already taking place. So Deities of Death, they might have actually ended the water a bit too fast and underestimated the tenacity that Kage no Toshi are gonna be showing here. Right now, Orange is gonna be even having to join, and he already wants to be actually fighting on the land. This is no tactical mistake here for Dots. It's gonna be slightly complicating their push on the land. Okay, we're just gonna have in some kind of funny formation. Sometimes happens when you're gonna be having units against a building or around a building. But nonetheless, the army here for Orange is gonna be pretty powerful. However, there's a fix, and much more importantly, in general, you can say now the Latinos are going to be about 20 population limit higher on the military, which is a bit surprising maybe. On the villages, they're gonna be also higher by about 15, but there's gonna be maybe some kind of slight problem because of the fishing, but evidently not entirely like a major one, because again, we are still working actually on the water economy here for Blue. Not massively, but kind of we are. No, and the comeback is absolutely real here. No, well, seems like it maybe somebody underestimated what's going to happen here. As of course, army pretty large here for Angel. Two-headed Skilla with pretty good hit points still. All good. Looking promising that maybe this could be having a bit more of a story here still. But still a bit worried about the undeveloped passage from SJO in there. He's a the Katask was well hidden at the back of the enemy base in the corner. Okay. Apparently suddenly heading into some kind of Skilla war. Favor for it, you can say now some village of gathering. No, he's not gonna be at it anymore, so you better be hoping this is gonna be enough for him. Theoretically good. Having millions of food right now. So just needs to be probably focusing the gold a bit more, and maybe could be even finding himself in the age of myths. It's not entirely powerful enough army here for Red. He's a bit maybe overestimated the Skilla, and the Skilla are definitely weaker on the Retold. They are a lot easier right now to take down. He probably doesn't have heroic fleet, right? No. But still. He does have at least right now heavy. This is gonna be a lot more of a story there still. So all the way to the left side we do have some small raiding going on. Camels evidently not gonna be having too much of a problem to fix it. But it's gonna be evidently just two Murmilos and a Carnivora. So nothing to be worried about too seriously after all. No, almost kind of feels to me that water is gonna be actually done in the maybe unexpected direction after all. But at the same time, it seems like the commitment is actually so strong that, for example, Dexito is currently struggling on the land because of that. So maybe the flow of the game still, after all, is gonna be slightly better appreciated and understood by Deities of Death. Even though really thinking that just like such a comeback on the water is definitely a tactical mistake on their part. They should have been paying a bit more attention to properly clean up after themselves, and maybe recognizing that Angel is gonna be committing there further and still. No, and on the land though, it seems like at all the way topside we probably aren't entirely ready to just kind of push through Trinidad as much, but the double from SJO and Lizard is gonna be definitely a bit more annoying anyway, because you can say now the army of the camels is gonna be already a second group. It definitely doesn't seem too weak. We just need to be getting a few more siege weapons in here into the mix. So if SJO is gonna be able to drop a fortress somewhere nearby, that would be going a long way. And maybe could be there for meaning some kind of progress in here as well. But I'm loving the towers because Trinidad is fully recognizing that he is right now being doubled, and therefore he's gonna be needing practically some extra population limit for being able to at least stay on the spot that he is. Anastroph, Pentacounters enabling melee special attack damage. Occurs every 5 attacks. That is a rare upgrade. Not entirely certain if I've actually seen it taken. But well, nonetheless, it's gonna be a thing here, therefore. And for right now, land all the way to the bottom. Looks like it, unfortunately, Kragak against Dexito. unfortunately from right now Kagenotoshi's side, he is gonna be playing excellently, and he is just gonna like pushing through the enemy bit by bit through his territory, and no, he's gonna be having all his hands full actually. Trying to at least keep this alive, because you can see Teal is trying to join, as he definitely should. You can see now the first archer and some further units coming forwards too. He's not entirely too far away from the Teal base, so maybe doesn't necessarily need to be having the military buildings there yet. But since this is gonna be 2 versus 1 in the defensive, you can see excellent army for KanT, then the double to the top side between the Egi and the Hades might be just a bit too much for Trinet to handle, but at least he's ready. Looking at the army. Medium Kontari and double copper. For the camels, we have heavy camels and 1 copper weapon at this point. Yes, you can see right now heavy Hippaspis, and they don't have anything there yet for SJO. What do we have there for Mythic into right now? Okay, where is he casting it? Jesus Christ almighty, I really hate Retold for this, that it doesn't show where the god powers are cast. I mean, like, how am I supposed to be guessing where it is? It's not even showing anywhere. There it was apparently. So sorry for completely missing it, but that's our retards, so what can we do? That's what I can say about that. So you're gonna be at this point having quite a bit of interesting support from the water. That's actually something that actually happens very commonly in AoE2. In Age of Mythology, somewhat rarely. In the original game, of course, you could be having the naval oxyballas siege boats, and they will be pretty powerful and helpful, but that's unfortunately not the case here anymore. And, well, then you have very limited cases where it's gonna be still useful to be keeping the boats even later into the game. But nonetheless, the push rate at this point by KanT seems to be significant enough that not even a couple of players is actually able to stop him. You can see even Angel Trail just went straight for the underworld passage. That's how critical it is. But it feels to me he's gonna be losing it almost instantaneously anyway. Once he's gonna be getting a bit more Rams interaction. So KanT is doing superbly here. As Blue, by the way, he is gonna be down to 37 wills. Not the greatest, but he is gonna be having the extra water that he can be utilizing and shoot. So that is helpful. No, but as you can see, underworld passages also right now come for SJO. You can see right now all the way back here from the Kataskopos from a bit earlier. And that's where, well, the fun is gonna be ending here, I'm thinking. Because not entirely certain if Angel is gonna be able to properly help here enough, as it's gonna be turning into 2 versus 1 in favor of Deities of Death. But of course, as we are right now looking at the top side, I don't want to be right now leaving the battle here for a moment, but purple is pushing through there. Looks like that maybe red is gonna be having to head back. Okay, so this is not entirely gonna be going anywhere too quickly enough here for the red player, as all the way to the top side, though purple is doing excellently, but he unfortunately seems to be missing. And he's having at least some of the siege right about now with the destroyers, so he's actually rather well prepared. This is looking a bit scary right now for SJO and Lizard. Did they? No, it's there. Where is the second half? There. Bit dangerously close to the water. Siege boats should be able to get it. Yeah, better be careful about the positions of the underworld passages. That's kind of like a thing of its own. Like, there needs to be some kind of even university lesson for how to place underworld passages, because most people just kind of cast it absolutely horribly. Not even thinking about any kind of consequences it could be having if they cast it, because most people cast it in the front lines, like straight in the front lines, and then they will just gonna be seeing how it's getting destroyed in a minute for no reason whatsoever. But well, whatever the case, you can say it now double bronze and copper in here. Red is finally yet again a bit more focusing the forward position, because they should. As it seems like that Lizard is having a bit of a problem handling it on his own. You can see he's gonna be having only a couple line of upgrades, and since he is only here on the castle units or the Migdal units, he seems to be having a bit of a problem dealing with the destroyers in the first place. Because for those you of course need Axemen, because otherwise they can tank absolutely everything. Look at the statistics on them, right? The hit points and the resistances. Camels are gonna be just a bit of a nuisance in there that's gonna be shot down by the archers even after. So, well, good job by Trinet. And you can see even on the score, it is still quite a bit of an active game. However, the bottom side from KanT seems to be going a bit more thoroughly and a bit better. Bit of a shame is that even though they have more water, the Latinos, they are not basically taking the fishing. So they have denied enemy the fishing boats. That's some kind of victory, but it's only half of it. Just not improving their economy as they should be. They could be getting at least a few more of the fishing spots in there. The ones in the second line, for example, like these, I think you're gonna be not entirely efficient enough, that's too far away. But these in the first lines, they're gonna be fine. Because that's always like an argument. What is gonna be more efficient? Is it going to be farming or is it gonna be fishing? And it's of course based on distance. Because otherwise fishing boats are super efficient. They carry what, 50 with salt amphora, 50 food. So they don't entirely make as many trips. But yeah, if the trip is gonna be long enough, it's gonna be somewhat offset. So you want to be kind of thinking of it. On certain maps it's not much of an issue, like Anatolia, usually you want to be getting all the fishing spots that you can. But here on Medit, there is definitely something to think of. Huh, just medium cavalry still for KanT. How about maybe some kind of upgrades in here? What is he getting? No, heavy cavalry now, getting trade started apparently. Bronze. No, finally he's getting some ups that he's gonna be needing. Because I mean, like, look at that. For example, Angel Trilly is the champions with double bronze and copper. He's gonna be right now at mediums mostly with only copper in here. So nothing too important so far going on. As far as right now, KanT on the upgrades. Like, he was doing well until all of these ups from Angel Trilly went through. Now he's actually standing quite a bit of a risk of maybe even losing the position if it's not gonna be fast enough about it. And since he cannot entirely influence it as a Freyer, there's a good chance. There's a very good chance currently here for Kagenatoshi. They might be actually maybe make some kind of counter breakthrough. They just need siege weapons, that's the problem. They should be having some kind of Petroboli coming through the top side into the TCs. Because without them, there's no way to destroy this in any kind of fashion. Because archers not gonna be cutting it, even with the boiling pitch. They're just not gonna be working well enough. No, but let's maybe switch to the top side, as it seems like the battle is also right now raging here. And quite a hefty one. But so far it's basically 2 versus 1, and apparently Trinet is holding them both. So that's one hell of an excellent performance in here. Who would have guessed after the first 2 games? But well, it's a different territory here. The 10 Huscarls in 1 Hillfort in there. But nonetheless, the first games were practically open land. And you could be using some early strength and skill of Deities of that here. But on the water, that's something where you're gonna be having a bit more time on the land to develop. And apparently that seems to be fitting Kagenatoshi pretty damn well. Yeah, Trinet is doing excellently. Let's maybe check the pop limit in here. If there's a problem there, maybe with 45 TCs to 35 pop limit. You can see 710 army Trinet. Red is at 205, having about 60 army, and the yellow is at this point having 120 army. So, like, they just gonna should be pushing at this point through. Finally, some kind of siege weapons. And looks like that maybe now, yeah, there's gonna be the breakthrough. Exactly as we are starting to talk about it. You can see how long it's taking. So I mean, actually right now the army for SJO, basically plenty of peltas in here. And it's right now Fate, no. It's actually right now Turmei, aha. It's not even like fully Kontari in here. Well, that's a good idea. The Turmei are gonna be working rather well if you're gonna be able to control them against the Charioteers. But it's a funny archer battle apparently here, with a few adjustments here and there, and additions. You can see Prodromi exactly at the same time as the camels. What a lucky timing right now for Angel Trilly. But all the way to the south, it seems like that we have therefore gotten through here slightly. But KanT, he has gotten great Jarls. He does have right now still only 1 bronze and double copper. Not great. Heavy throwing axeman for Dexito, who is by the way on quite a solid comeback path. Village-wise, he's gonna be at 47. That's not that great. But again, he should be there for using the villages here or the fishing boats. Because this is, by the way, also a problem for Teal, because he's using a lot of population limit in here. But nonetheless, for Blue, he should be taking even the further fishing, because he needs to be restarting his economy in a kind of way that he can. So that's also imperfection that could be still getting a bit better. As in the total stages and total numbers, we have 250 population limit on the army for Deities of that B, whereas 287, so basically 30-40 population limit more for Kagenatoshi. As on the villages, that's a significant difference, some 60. But there's something to offset it, and that's deficient, so it's not entirely as horrible. Alright, so we suck. Okay, so he's trying to suck in practically only red. It's not gonna be as much. Unfortunately, friendly fire is the real thing with implosion. So while we have destroyed the tower, the TC because of the catapults, finally, some kind of still siege. And again, for the millionth time, siege weapons are a necessity, and you can see it exactly here. Until the siege weapons came, they were having absolutely impossible time breaking into Trinet. But once you were having the siege weapons in, you are able to take down the TC, because it just like completely changes the balance of the battle. You have to be suddenly maybe kind of thinking and trying to maybe get rid of the catapults, or you're just forced to give up ground that you were defending well before, that you have prepared for the defenses. So it just kind of sucks now. It's classic artillery simply rules the battlefield even today. Always has been a thing and always will be. It's actually kind of impressive how realistic it is even in a computer game, when you think of it. No, nonetheless, that's gonna be right now there for Frost for some kind of recuperation maybe here for the Latinos, but unfortunately they don't have apparently time for taking the TC, as there will be currently KragHack getting his time into the Mythical Age. Dexito is still in the Heroic, and all the rest are already through. Plus we have Angel Trilly with Earthquake, by the way. So that still also hasn't been cast. So looks like the Deities of Death are gonna be there for breaking here to the top side. That's theoretically something that might help, because usually if you're gonna be getting extra TC for either Egyptian or the Greek, then that's gonna spell in a bit of disaster for the opponent, because quality units or mercenaries and other nonsense is potentially for the Egi. No, so units are right now in to help out. Few Prodrometer right now block whatever is in the front, but the Peltas... No, well, it's gonna be Pelta versus Pelta in here for a moment. As you need to be switching to the bottom, because there it is getting quite a bit critical for Deities of Death, because you can see right now KragHack, while he is getting into the Mythical Age, he is not really faring too well, because lost the TC, lost right an army, lost the ground. No, maybe even those villages should be actually finding some different place to fight, or fight to. No, even the economical peoples are fighting practically in the war. They are a piece of it as well. Okay then, so seems to be at this point at 27 minutes that we don't have definitely any kind of resolution of it all yet. I'm just gonna be looking at some resources if somebody's having some bad economy. Look at KragHack, he's completely drained. 5,000 wood here for yellow. Nothing too terrible. Just a bit more wood here for some of the players. That kind of happens, especially on water maps, where you're gonna be not entirely always fully actually switching the villages as you should. But nonetheless, seems like it currently is gonna be focused there for off-deal here. And where is yellow? Yellow is nowhere to be seen, so he's gonna be there for trying to focus south side. As you can see, moving forward with the towers, definitely good idea, because since he cannot be producing units into this battlefield, he's gonna be needed there. Okay, so that's some kind of cleanup. I think there were some camels probably there, so that's why he was in that position. Champion Contarius with all bronze so far. Still a few things missing, and bit of optimism in there by SJO, but you have to try. So I can't entirely blame him for that, as the forest fire that will be of course southwards. As yes, we do have some proper effort currently by KragHack on a bit of a comeback. You can see on the armies though, look at that. That will be what, almost 400 population limit. Really? Almost 400 population limit for army on Deities of Death side. That is kind of obscene number for the moment. Interesting they have actually gotten it though. That seems to be true. No, so at this point growing at least a bit lower into some more normal number, 330. But still it is going to be somewhat of the same level as currently Dexito and his team. Kagenotoshi. Seem to be, no, yeah, that's of course where yellow is. Right now trying to help Champion War Elephant with all iron, so it basically cannot be getting any better here for the Egi. No, he just needs to be focusing on the towers and proper late game Egi. And also needs to be, by the way, getting trade, because I'm fairly certain that yellow is having almost no trade in here. Oh, almost. He's having a limited trade, and is he going into correct PC even? Yeah, it seems to be going somewhere here southwards. But whatever the case, we're gonna be also having some attempt on raiding into enemy trade. That is something that could be possibly helping out here. Economically, we have gotten onto somewhat of a similar level. If you're gonna be considering deficient, yes, I'm thinking that we are there. Plus the trade. That is, at this point, maybe a bit harder to, like, compare, I guess. Okay, so it's gonna be goodbye right about now, at least steel army. Blue luckily dodged that. That could have been probably aimed a bit better. If it were aimed, for example, from like top side in here, he could have been also taking all the throwing X-Men from Dexito. It's a bit of a shame maybe that he didn't. That could have been nice. No, but this is like a problem of the units constantly. Because if you're gonna be having combination of Peltas for the Hades and Prodromi, especially even just the Prodromi are gonna be practically countering everything in the late game. Because if you have all the ups on them, then the Prodromi are gonna be having 34% pierce resistance, so they're not gonna be entirely doing too badly even against Chariots. And Chariots, they're gonna be getting bonus damage against Camels as well, Elephants as well. So I'm just kinda thinking that you maybe need to be adding even some... It's a bit odd, but maybe the barracks units would be some kind of help in there for the Isis. Or he just needs to be adding towers with crenellations as well. And helping against the cavalry that way. Maybe that could also help out. No, quite a bit of an interesting fight as... Oh, okay, I was halfway hoping there's some kind of back build, but evidently not. What are, by the way, the relics? 10% for hit points for the archers. And right now the bonus damage against other infantry, actually something that could be potentially useful. As it looks like it all the way top side, we are yet again moving maybe into the opposite direction. Just kinda depends if the TC is gonna be taken by Trinet. Should be of course the major focus. As army wise we are having at this point 300 population limit on dot side. Other side is gonna be about 330. What are we clicked into? Purple. So he was getting a palace somewhere. What is right now this build up? Ah, fortress. No, unfortunately looks like it probably is gonna be getting our village. No, maybe not as much. Even though we don't have the bonus against the siege weapons anymore, there's just gonna be way too many villages. So they should be able to right now fix it in almost no time. No, there's no point. Why is he even trying to escape? I mean, like, there's no way he's gonna be escaping. Just could have been maybe even, I don't know, putting the fortress into 500 hit points, maybe. One hell of a decision, of course, there as well. And, water comeback right now for Greghack, recognizing the opportunity in there. Is he? Okay, we're getting some spawns of the Wolfies into the middle of the trade. That's gonna suck here for dots. Look at the economy right now, drop in. 284. Unfortunately, we're not gonna be seeing it properly because the trade caravans we don't see here. But at least some villages are evident. But the bottom side seems to be at this point quite a strong victory for Kagenotoshi. But interesting is that actually on the score, Deities of Death are at this point leading. They don't seem to be entirely leading on the battlefield though. So that's a bit odd. Does it mean we are floating resources therefore? Not too much there. No. A bit of gold here for blue, or for red rather. Can see Fotil, he's gonna be having food. Not too bad. I mean, like, nobody's floating anything terrible. Yeah, pretty much fine here, I'm thinking. All things considered. I'm loving the Chimera here. I mean, like, there's absolutely nothing to be seen here because of the stupid graphical effects everywhere. But the Chimera are not wanting to do something, but they are facing Gothis, unfortunately. If it were some kind of normal infantry, probably would have been able to do a lot more, as finally the Titan Gate is coming. I was impatiently waiting for who's gonna be first, because we had 33 minutes of this. At this point I don't want to be necessarily calling it a stalemate, but it is definitely not entirely like a full victory right now path. But we still do have the Earthquake for Teal. I think this is a great opportunity for Earthquake here, frankly. Because they are pushing pretty nicely, and if they will be Earthquake in there, they can just kinda move through immediately. They will be getting TC immediately. I think this is a great moment for Earthquake. What kind of other god powers do we have? Well, classic RS, nobody knowing how to use Pestilence, of course. And, no, well, talking about the Pestilence. I mean, like, okay, this should have been Earthquake, by the way, would have been doing the same job better. But the Pestilence is kinda fine as well, because it's gonna be meaning... yeah, this one is taken as well, just the graphics are not good on the talk. So, both Mignos are not gonna be making new units. This is actually a serious problem right now for Lizard. He's not gonna be able to replace the losses in here in any kind of way. And this is exactly what I'm talking about for years, that Pestilence is actually a great god power even for late game. It is a classical age god power, but situations like these, where you're gonna be able to block the opponent for a minute from getting new units, that is absolutely OP. It's like superbly OP thing to have. in such a situation, when you have such a stalemate and such, that's immediately creating a great opening for you, if you are gonna be timing it well. I think this could have been used slightly better, but nonetheless, still, appreciate the thought that he finally discovered he's having a good power in there, which probably could be meaning that Earthquake might be used sometime soon as well. No, you can see right now reinforcing first further Migdals, which might be having, of course, a bit of a positive effect in a moment for right now Lizard. He's gonna be able to therefore spam it a bit quicker. No, but the territory is right now kind of being lost, because are we focusing topside or what is happening here? Castrafet even making an appearance in here. Not too much. Still the TC, by the way, not taken. So he's playing 2 TCs, the Gaia, and he's holding full player in here, by the way. That's kind of impressive at this point. Again, 400 population limit for Deities of Death on the military against 300 for the opponents. And we have already seen that before, but haven't entirely seen it actually growing into any kind of game victory advantage at all, at least so far. I'm kind of tempted to be looking maybe at some economical upgrades if something isn't missing for dots, because it's a bit odd they are not breaking through. Especially here to the top side, because upgrade-wise on the military they should be, they are ironed. Opposing side is gonna be right now not fully. Can say now still a few upgrades could be coming through here for Trinet. Whereas all the way south, we are still in the same position in here. Again, I'm really thinking the Earthquake would have been, I'm gonna be repeating it again, would have been the good solution in there. But Dexito, he's gonna be right now having throwing X-Men into heavy, as the Titan is gonna be coming up, and he is getting made all the way there. So, where are we going with you? I think in top is the choice. I'll be going top, because I think this is kind of in the balance here. The bottom side, they are kind of having a bit of a problem currently, the opponents breaking through. So if you're gonna be sending it top, you're gonna be helping SJO take this TC. You're gonna be basically breaking Trinet with the Titan, and that might be a victory. Because the bottom doesn't seem to be crumbling fast enough for any kind of emergency need for it, in my opinion. And I can say now they're doing excellently here at this moment. So the Titan going south is superfluous, in my opinion. But nonetheless, well, at this point you can also just gonna go through into like the enemy base. You can go through the water on Retold, so maybe that's also like a use case for the Titan. Because if you send him against the straight units with all the upgrades that we have in the late game, I mean like, not for Dexito, he is having, can say now of course not the Irons yet, not even the Champions, because still hasn't gotten there. Full Iron for the Hades, even Shafts of Plague for example, and Sunray. I'm not entirely certain what it can be bringing here. He's just gonna be quickly losing hit points. Just, of course, the opponents should be there for preparing with all the heroes, because so far we don't see anything here. Just Hiron for Teal. Needs to be getting all the boys into the mix. No, and of course right now Dexito is not entirely prepared with any Gothis. And of course right now the distinct lack of siege weapons again at this point for Lizard. For the opponents kind of as well. That's also maybe why they weren't entirely able to break through all that quickly as they could have. Otherwise, as the Titan can be pushing through into the TC and should be. And there is a very brave economy here by Dexito. I gotta applaud at this point therefore the balls in here. Building economy in the middle of the enemy territory kind of. But still, he's gonna be paying for that. Now he's gonna be having to rebuild elsewhere, and that was a damn fast Titan gate from SJO. Kerberos jumping up. Seems like he's gonna be therefore able to gonna work on his own here. Doesn't need the help. Maybe that was kinda like the communication for Dots. That he was saying, I'm gonna be getting my own Titan, I'm gonna be handling it anyway. Because I mean like any Titan is gonna be good here. There's the TC. Yeah, seems like that right now Trinet is running out of breath a bit, and the Titan is gonna be just last unthinking drop. So that should be right now going for Dots in here. And all the way to the south, no, well, Titan not about, of course, to be frozen in here. Such measly and meager god powers are not gonna be working against him. He's having what, 24,000 HP. I mean, like the graphics are so wonky on the Titans. The animations getting cut down and cut off rather. Like for example this, right? No, well, at any rate, you're gonna be there for having move forward here for dots, and at this point I think it's gonna be up to if maybe there's gonna be still some kind of power for a Titan on the other side for Kagenotoshi. You can see there's gonna be Titan Gate for Craighead though. I will be look at the queues. That is a massive queue for Lizard. He just needs to be getting way more military buildings and probably just gonna not enter as many camel caravans possibly. Not sure about that. 700. Hard to say how many caravans he has. Can't entirely tell from the information in here. But I think it potentially attempted by Angel Trilly, but he doesn't have the resources. He's having 17,000 food. Excuse me. He's just at this point unfortunately missing even just a favor and never used that stupid earthquake. Ah, come on. That could have been such a game changer in plenty moments, either top side or bottom sides, to be honest, if cast in the correct place and correct time. But yeah, well, can't be getting the Titan because the favor is not gonna be allowing him, even if he could be trading. But nonetheless, the resources, even actually purple is floating quite a bit. But for him, he is constantly popped because he's missing the TC in the front. Red is also right now floating 7,000. Yeah, they need to be at this point looking at their economies a bit. Just Dexito is the only one who is not. Freyr is also Craighead. He was having hard time, so at this point he is evidently enjoying swimming in the resources for at least the moment. What is it, almost 10,000 in there? Yeah, almost 10,000 resources for him. And we need... Hey! Actually getting Jormund Elvers even into the water in there. Not entirely certain why exactly, but sure, I guess. As you can see right now, all the way top side. We are there for the finishing with the TC, or finish the TC. And now it's gonna be the Titan to the top side. Maybe could be getting some villager kills in there. But much more importantly, trying to block the trade as well. And yes, that is a long merit, 40 minutes already. Might be the longest game in the tournament so far. Okay, this is gonna hurt if he kills all of those. Loving how he's actually trying to block them, and they actually survived at least some of those. But not all. And now, okay, the caravans come in. Oh, that's not great. Still some survival rate is gonna be in. He actually didn't kill all that many, but the next round, I guess it's gonna be a bit worse here. Whatever the case, let us see what the Jormund Elvers are all about. Just gonna cleaning up the water. But frankly, as he said, there wasn't any kind of huge economy. Maybe for Angel he was having a bit, but that was the only thing. So all the way southwards, we are still having a Titan at about 9,000. And you can see how long it's taking them to be even breaking through the enemy here. Forward build, I guess for blue at this point you could be saying, seems like it's not gonna be too relevant anymore. Oh, but now there's gonna be an issue, of course, with the extra TCs for Deities of that. You can see the GGs have to be coming because we have 500 plus population limit on the army for dots, whereas the opponents are about 200, so they're just getting way too overwhelmed now. And while, well, there's a last attempt maybe on the TC. Not going to be unfortunately good enough, and it was literally all about who's gonna be reclaiming this TC to the top side. In the end, managed to be SJO, and of course, with the help of the Titan there as well, he is gonna be there for getting the victory. But yeah, well, dots were clenching real hard in this game. Like, seriously. Because at the start, they have won the water very comfortably. Unfortunately, they underestimated it. And Kagenotoshi were doing excellently as far as the comeback goes there. That was nicely played. Because the water was too quick. It was victory at about 9 minutes less than 9 minutes. And that is a really good timer for still comeback on the water to be very viable, and it was. And that's what created the problems for the Deities of Death, because they kind of didn't have the boost they were maybe expecting to be having from the fishing economy that they lost. I think a major mistake by Kagenotoshi not to be reclaiming the fishing spots. They kind of ignore them besides Angel. That was a major mistake on their part. Could have been really bolstering them up significantly. But then, absolutely, like, great play by Angel as he was switching between the sides where he was needed. Good job by Dexito, not giving up and dying, even though his base was almost getting destroyed in there. So this was like a really tight game. And took quite a long time before Deities of Death kind of realized what they need to be doing. I mean, like, again, I would have been still loving to see from the Ege way more towers. If you're gonna be in such a stalemate situation, you absolutely need to be employing every kind of trick you have in in your repertoire, and towers are one of the key ones for the late game spam. And especially since you are having so many available in this game, in Retold, doubled compared to the original, they're just gonna go for it, right? And for the Eggy, they are just like so easy to get. So easy to get in here. Yeah, no problem with us. You're having some really cool games in here in the match. And the Titans, in the end, were... I'm not entirely wanting to say that they were the deciders. They definitely helped, but it looked to me and felt to me that they were turning it on their own Deities of that. It would have been taken longer, but they were on the correct path already. That they understood what they need to be doing better and how they need to be playing that. But yeah, I'm thinking that, again, the Earthquake not used, that is a major blunder, of course, in here. That they didn't find an opportunity to cast it. Like, what the hell? There were so many moments where they were almost ready to break the enemy. And the Earthquake would have been just the breaking power for that. It's a great God power for that kind of case, exactly. When you are almost like on the brink of beating the opponent or getting an advantage, then Earthquake is just a game changer. That's at such a stage. Like, for example, I think that even the timer, when they were pushing here and he was casting the Pestilence, if they did go for the Earthquake, they might have been having a chance to claim it. Question is if it wasn't maybe too late because of the Titan at that point, but it had an opportunity here. Same as casting Pestilence in the late game. Great God power. People need to be finally learning to use this God power. It's absolutely impressive how nobody knows how to use it, experts included. Just like... nobody pays any kind of attention to the God power when it's actually so OP. And in late game, maybe even more so than in the early game. Because again, in the late game, having a minute without creating new units, that's just something that just absolutely kills you. So you also need to be careful about how you're going to be placing your military buildings. No, nonetheless, cool game. Cool game for sure. Taking a bath in here, Trinet and his Oracle. And let's have a look at some upgrades. Monument near the temple. Oh, right. Yes. No, but still. So you could be therefore basically making a dive for it, this one. Yeah. I mean, like, that's definitely within your range to even pull it down. And it's a monument. It's an Isis monument on Retold. So the range is about this. So the range is like this. So you can send Unity here and cast the Earthquake here. Absolutely no problem whatsoever. The range is absolutely stupid on Retold if you're not empowering the monument. So... that's not an argument, unfortunately. In the original game, it absolutely would be. Because in the original game, the range of the monument is bigger than the screen. It's like bigger than the screen, so you could just cover a lot of ground. On Retold, that's only if you empower. And I'm thinking that even then it's a bit smaller. Because they simply didn't want to be having something in the game that's gonna be blocking God powers when multiple castings of God powers are one of their sticks, right? So they neutered it pretty significantly. And you need to be very careful about your placement of monuments if you want to be blocking something. But nonetheless, it's a good valid argument as well. But yeah, casting here to the top side was absolutely a possibility. And in the end, could have been easily casting it somewhere to the left side when they were breaking in. I don't think there was a monument here for Pharaohs as well. Not sure if it was here earlier, but I'm assuming that probably so, for the same reasons. But again, they just like... then potentially dive the monument, and you're gonna be having an opportunity after. But again, just like a lack of siege weapons also was a significant portion, especially for Deities of that here to the top side. You have seen that basically they were struggling until they started adding catapults for the Eggy. Once the catapults showed up, that's where they started pushing through. Because that's where you completely change the kind of like how the battle proceeds and what you need to be doing in it. As you mentioned, same as real world, artillery is the king of the battlefield. Same situation here. No, okay, let's go into the upgrades. As currently, that's gonna be, I think, therefore it for us. As the last match that is right now being played. Who is it actually playing at this point? I'm not sure, but maybe Stretch is streaming it therefore. He was saying that he's gonna be wanting to do a match, so look forward and look around in the Age of Mythology Twitch directory. You should be seeing some info there, if there is a further stream currently running for the tournament. You can see it now, full irons for the players. Actually, kind of reminds me that I'm not entirely certain if I've seen too many shades in the fights. I'm hoping that he hasn't forgotten about them somewhere. Inefficiency on the economy. That's something that maybe seems cool for a moment, but in the span of 43-minute game, this is gonna be costing you hundreds of resources. These kinds of spread without further granaries. Same situation here. No. Gonna be having some funny graphs, I'm thinking here. Okay. Orange all the way south is gonna be there for on all the upgrades, all the fancy ones as well here for KanT. But yeah, well, KanT was doing excellently as he was pushing through there, but then it backfired upon him really well by Angel joining through south and just basically beating him back because he was just gonna go in on... he was trying to go on low upgrades, but once he actually met somebody with good upgrades in the Angel, yeah, it started actually disappearing his advantage very quickly. It was hard in there for him for a moment, but luckily yellow managed to save him there. Where is blue? There is blue. Yeah, he was unfortunately stuck on the bronze. Couldn't be getting the irons in there after all, and in the end. And I think that's it for the armies. And for the villagers, for example, for the fishing boats, you can see that's going to be the Sultan for at least here. And, well, the only one who actually came back on the water was KanT, and he was even Sultan for in here. 4.7, so we do have coinage. Can't say it now. Economically, he's going to be there for having everything. Just going to be curious if maybe somebody's missing upgrades in the end and at the end. Seems like not the easiest. Trade is going to be at this point going... missing query potentially for the red player, but, well, depends when it was that he was actually switching into trade in here for himself. 4.6, so that's all good. Citizens missing also query, so at least it was fair between those two guys. Okay, that's also fine on the trade. Resource upgrades at this point, everything there. Seems like it so far, everybody just in the 40 minutes managed to discover, and if they were missing something, they just managed to find out that they could have been, and... Okay, let's reset the sentence. They managed to find out that they maybe were missing some upgrades and managed to recuperate. Only the Xito here at the end didn't have coinage for his trade, but he was also advancing Mythical kind of later. So maybe just slightly forgot, not sure. Economically, is in the second or the last levels. Yeah, he wasn't entirely too super long in the Mythical, was he? And maybe just kinda didn't even bother too much. That might be also the par with... Is there a trade for teal? Is still... Wait a second, was still playing without trade 40 minutes? Nah. Really? Actually, really? No, actually, really. Teal is completely tradeless. Didn't even notice that during the game. No, well, that might be, of course, one of the problems why maybe they didn't win in the end. That is gonna be, of course... He was the one with the 17,000 food on his account, of course. Yeah, 0 gold. He was having 19 villages somewhere. There was a gold mine, actually, still. Nah. Unfortunately, at this point, it's not going to be allowing to find them immediately. There is potentially the gold mine in the middle, of course. Nobody using. There is the trade. No, I was kind of thinking that to be completely retarded that he didn't have them. So, yeah, luckily he does. So, good. Good coinage in place. So, all good. It would be really strange from my point of view. But nonetheless, let's have a look there for the resources. Who is floating what? Still a bit more here for KanT on the wood. So maybe could be helping himself there a bit. Can say it now, yellow, the same situation with the food in there. Yeah, apparently insufficient trade still. Decent favor for both. Blue is gonna be fine, just tons of favor in here. Red, 200 favor just. Could be maybe getting some extra good powers like a restoration even, or underworld passage extra. Gold from the trade. Gaia is having also gold from the trade in there. And only 3 oracles, so not enough favor to potentially... It was a long enough game, so if he had like maybe 9-10 oracles, he could have been getting some further implosion even. But nobody really does it with Gaia. And yeah, the bit overflowing resources for Angel. So he was doing excellently, but yeah, well, a few of these moments could have been also doing and done a bit differently. Okay, so can we actually read anything in this graph? We can read definitely red, as JO was having more idols than would be prudent. Endgame for Dexito. I mean, like, actually, this is a long endgame. So this is kind of like the moments where they will push in, or moments. 10 minutes, 5 minutes when they were attacking. So that's a bit odd. He's actually having 30 villages idle in there. Not sure if maybe it wasn't not... Probably this is not involving trade though. It's only villages. Yeah, so that's not ideal. That's thousands of resources gone unnecessarily. But otherwise, red and for the others, not too bad. Maybe yellow is here a bit more common, up and down. But not too horrible, I guess. Just at this point, it's a bit skewed. Because they seem thin, but in the end, it's a 40-minute game. If it would be like a 20-minuter, you'll be seeing that's like, I mean, like half a minute idle times there. So yes, that's gonna be also Lizard, something to focus upon for him. And nothing too terrible. Maybe here at the end, teal. But that was already the game kind of falling apart for them. Of course, special graph. I mean, like everybody, kind of same-ish. Besides Dexito playing his own game here for understandable reasons. Switching right now into Ulfsax in here from 80 to 60. Took him a long time in here. He dropped to about 40 at 18 minutes. And then 10 minutes later, he was at like double. So you can see how long it took him to actually bring that back into some reasonable numbers. Maybe he could have been focusing on that slightly more. But it probably felt that they were near to some victory for the past, I don't know, 15 minutes. Didn't want to be invested into that, and we're hoping that they are going to be breaking the enemy fast enough. And you can say it now, red slowly but surely getting the trade going as well. 160 pop limit. That is one hell of a... That's 60 trade, by the way, with 100 villages. And still, with the extra population limit that we have on Retold, he wasn't entirely floating anything too scary. So for the early armies, you can see right now it's going to be KanT. Now, this is right now the reason why he was destroying Dexito, right? Because you can see right now he's just towering above everybody else. In the early stages, Lizard, that was the water victory. That then turned a bit sour, as they gave up on that a bit too soon. We weren't expecting right now Angel, and then look at him. But of course, he was having just like the archers and skirmishes. Even though he was even into prodromy, but not too many in the later stages, just like in the early ones. And the other players, for example, yellow would be low because that was 3 popular units for him almost, all exclusively. Plenty Kontari for purple, so he's also gonna be lower. If you're gonna be looking at the teams, then of course, yeah, that's gonna be just Angel in here, picking up the numbers. But on the population limit, that would be a whole lot nicer graph to see. But again, that's not what the devs thought would be a nice idea to add. No, and for the economy, it's gonna be probably hard to be seen anything proper in here as at the start. Classic drop for the ISIS, or drop lower than everybody else. Gaia will be on the other end of the spectrum as is usual. And then at about, for example, 30 minutes, we seem to be... No, the Gaia playing really, just you can see he was pulling it through the economy. That's how he was doing so well to the top side. The Echo was holding him above the water, even against the strong double in there from Dots. No, but here, you can say it now with the last one, for example, SJO, he was kind of far away, even with Lizard. I mean, like, Lizard is a bit surprising as an ECC is gonna be so low. You can see excellently played by Angel, really economically. He was the one who was having the most fishing boats, so that's gonna be one of the reasons for that. And Trinet, guess it's gonna be simply the Gaia Econo there, because he was having a few fishing boats, not entirely too many. But yeah, interesting division. At 20 minutes, 6,000 is not small. No, and then we still kind of seem to be though holding kind of close-ish. At the same time, between, for example, here KanT and Trinet, it's gonna be like 15,000 resources, almost 14,600. So that is of course a number. And near the end, we were therefore talking about some 19,000, no, 18,500. And you can see a few tiers here as well, as Lizard finally came into his own with some proper trade for the again, thinking that's gonna be probably the key success here for the yellow guy. Nonetheless, you can say that 1200 favor for the Hades. Otherwise, I mean like 700 favor, for example, we were having that at 20-minute game. In the previous one, for example. 50,000 gold for SGO. Still more than the Eggy. Still more there. Already 30 minutes, 3,000 resources, for example, here. That's fairly nice difference as well in here. But nonetheless, for the further statistics, 136 villages, that's something I can understand. And in 40 minutes game, that's something that I can get, and can agree with. 993 units killed for Trinet, damn. Yeah, this is gonna be having these fun statistics. 101 because, of course, Fimbulwinter here for Dexito. So that's why we're gonna be having such a broken number there yet again. But for Angel, really 83 largest army, that's legit. That is legit for him. 287 peltas, for example. What we are having for others. 204 fanatics. That is an expensive unit. That is an impressive number. And amount. And yeah, well, that's also maybe why he was doing so well there. Because the fanatics apparently carried their own pretty well in that battle. Angel 857, Mythical Ages, kind of fine-ish. You can see just Dexito, that's understandable, but for the others, the 20 minutes plus, you can see 27 for Craighead, kind of understandable as well, because as he was pushing and then Henry was basically forced back, then he was trying to stabilize more than anything else. So the Mythical Ages are hard to get, but then, well, recuperated into even 70 upgrades, one of the highest numbers I remember seeing in a long time. No, and I guess 81 Dryads into the fight as well. Also good help. 22 Chimera Tyrants. Damn. That's one hell of a number. And some kind of, you can see, Revenant Draugars. Probably just gonna trying to get at least something on the battlefield when he was having all the favor from the fighting earlier. And he was getting pushed back. You can see a few Skilly also making their use and making their appearance in the game. Now, nonetheless, that's going to be there for a GG in here. And congratulations in the end to Deities of Death B, who are going to be there for the victors of the match. Congratulations on round 3 of the group B, I want to say. Yeah, of round B. Sorry. Of rather group B, not ground. I cannot speak anymore, sorry. So, congratulations on that, and good luck in the further rounds. And Kage no Toshi, no, well, great fight, especially in the last game. Well, seems like that maybe they need to be practicing a bit more, therefore, on the open maps, if the opponents are going to be trying to raid them early. They were having a bit of a struggle against that, and that's where Deities of Death shown. But here, on that Merit, might be maybe their home map, because they played excellently. That comeback was nice. And they were reaching for the victory. They were almost there. So good job, and also good luck in further games. GG.